One of the most popular ship designs in Star Trek is the Enterprise A. With its elegant retro lines and stylish white hull plating, it is one of the most beautiful ships in Starfleet. In this video, we are going to take a look at both the Refit original Enterprise and the Enterprise A. I'm Joey from Radio Free Vulcan, and this is Every Enterprise Episode 3, A Tall Ship and a Star to Steer Her By. Design. Mercifully, we only have one design of ship to go over in this installment of Every Enterprise. We may be discussing both the Refit original Enterprise and the Enterprise A, but they are the same class of ship and the difference in details is trivial, mostly just differences in interior rooms. What is not trivial, though, is the difference between the original Constitution-class starship and the Refit Constitution II. It was made slightly larger, with a proportionally larger saucer diameter and thicker engineering hull. Much of the internal structure of the hull would have had to be replaced or rearranged to enact these changes, begging the question of what actually remains of the original. Captain Decker describes it as an almost totally new Enterprise. With such major internal and external changes, the Enterprise has become a bit of a ship of Theseus. The section of the Enterprise seeing the subtlest changes is the saucer section. It followed the same basic layout of the original model, though with an extra 8 meters added to its radius. The lower sensor dome was upgraded, and an airlock and observation room added to the bridge module. The impulse engines got the biggest upgrade, being made larger and getting a new housing with a glowing circular structure on it. I wasn't able to determine the official name of it, but various sources refer to it as either an impulse crystal or a plasma deflection assembly. I imagine these are probably two different names for the same object in universe, not a disagreement on what the blue thing is. A technical name and a colloquial name, for example. Though on the other hand, in production drawings, it's also referred to as a deflector crystal, so who knows what it really is. The neck of the new Enterprise had very few changes as well, other than its general proportions. A large rectangular base was added to it, with 2 photon torpedo launchers at the front and an airlock on each side. The engineering hull is where we start to see more significant changes. It was made 12 meters longer and 4.6 wider, with a new barrel-like shape. The deflector on the front was changed from a protruding brass dish to an embedded glowing one. The nacelle pylons were attached further forward on the hull, closer to the center than on the previous Constitution class, though it would likely be more accurate to say that the shuttle bay at the rear was extended. The engineering hull also had an airlock on either side, and large windows to its arboretum towards the bottom. The original's straight pylons were replaced with backwards swept pylons and connected to a brand new style of rectangular nacelles. The layout of the nacelles was the same as it had been for the last century, with a Bassard collector at the front and plasma vents on the sides, even though the aesthetics and structure of the nacelles were completely updated with new technology on the inside. In real life, the updated Enterprise was designed for Star Trek the Motion Picture by Andrew Probert, based on a concept by Matt Jeffries, who also created the original series Enterprise. This concept design was originally planned for the scrapped Star Trek Phase 2 TV show, and was very similar to the Enterprise we got in the motion picture, but with the aesthetics of the original series. It eventually went on to be used in the game Star Trek Online as part of the game's 10th anniversary bundle, where it was named the Jeffries class light cruiser in honor of Matt Jeffries. Specifications. The Constitution II class heavy cruiser measured 305 meters long by 140 meters wide and 75 meters tall. It had a mass of roughly 620,000 metric tons and 23 decks. Its crew complement was 400 when it originally launched. Later on, its crew complement was reduced to 300 due to advancements in automation. In fact, its automation was so advanced that it could even be reconfigured by a skilled engineer to allow the entire ship to be operated by just the bridge crew for short periods of time, though this was only attempted once. The ship's cruising speed was warp 7, equivalent to 343 times the speed of light. It was armed with 18 Type 7 phasers and 4 torpedo launchers. The phasers were located in pairs on the top and bottom of the saucer, and bottom and rear of the engineering hull. I wasn't able to find where the third and fourth torpedo launchers were, but the first and second were located on the neck. It had a total torpedo capacity of 120. The Enterprise, and the Constitution II class in general, appears to have had a very small shuttlecraft complement. The Enterprise is only known to have carried 2 Type 4 shuttlecraft in main Star Trek canon, the Galileo and Copernicus. However, in Andrew Probert's matte renderings for the motion picture, we can also see at least 3 SW-7 class long-range shuttles and 4 cargo management units in the Enterprise's shuttle bay. Unfortunately, these were omitted in the final matte paintings used in the film, created by Matthew Urisic. Still, I like the idea of the Enterprise carrying these craft, and it did so in several books and comics, and the ship's designer clearly intended it to, so I'm going to include them anyway. The Type 4 shuttle was the evolution of the classic Class F shuttle. It was not warp-capable, unlike the Class F, but could carry the same 6 passengers and 1 crew, plus some cargo. It measured about 9 meters long by 3.4 wide and 2.9 tall, and weighed about 9.45 tons. It was aesthetically quite different from the Class F, but its design would go on to inform the designs of Starfleet shuttles for generations. The SW-7 class shuttle was an unusual wedge-shaped design intended to dock with a warp sled. They were more commonly seen in use as interstellar couriers, but I think it makes sense for them to be included on a ship like the Enterprise, as seen in the original sketch for the matte painting. It measured 18.7 meters long by 11.1 wide and 4.4 tall without being docked to the warp sled. It had either 2 or 4 crew and could carry 6 or 10 passengers, depending on the source. I'm inclined to believe the larger figures because it's a much larger shuttle. By default, it was not warp capable, but the warp sled it was designed for could reach warp 4. I doubt any of the sleds were carried aboard the Enterprise, though. It was also fitted with 3 phaser banks and defensive deflector shields. Finally, the Cargo Management Unit, better known as a work bee, was a tiny utility vehicle carried by many starships and stations for making external inspections and repairs, or ferrying cargo. It could be equipped with forward manipulator arms, or tow a train of cargo containers behind it. I imagine that the cargo role diminished over time as transporter technology expanded, but during the time period of the motion picture, the work bee was the most effective way to move cargo. The official size of the work bee is 4.1 meters long by 1.9 wide and 1.9 tall, but as Bernd Schneider points out on his website X Scientia, that size would make it larger than a Type 15 shuttle pod, which doesn't seem accurate when the shuttle pod can seat at least 3 people comfortably while the work bee has a single operator crammed in like a fighter pilot. The original production blueprints for the motion picture place it at 2.7 meters long, giving it a width and height of about 1 meter, which seems much more accurate to what we see on screen. History. After Captain Kirk and company completed their historic 5-year mission in 2270, the Enterprise returned to Earth to be decommissioned and dismantled. Fortunately, due to the fame of the ship and crew, Starfleet changed its mind and opted to upgrade her to the new Constitution II class instead, and eventually made the Enterprise a testbed for several new technologies. However, during the very last stages of the upgrade, disaster struck when an enormous cloud was discovered on a direct course for Earth, destroying several Klingon vessels along the way. The nearly complete Enterprise was dispatched to investigate, where they discovered a gigantic spaceship named V'ger inside, controlled by an ancient Voyager probe from Earth. After 2 of the Enterprise's crew merged with V'ger, it ascended to a higher plane of existence. Having solved the crisis, the Enterprise crew took the newly refurbished Enterprise on a shakedown cruise, after which they returned it to Earth where it served as a training vessel for new cadets. In 2285, Admiral Kirk took the Enterprise to investigate an attack on the Regula 1 space station. He discovered that an old nemesis of his, Khan Noonien Singh, had escaped from his exile and hijacked the USS Reliant. The Reliant attacked the Enterprise and badly damaged it, killing Spock in the process, before being destroyed by Khan's stolen Genesis device. The Enterprise returned to Earth again, where it was scheduled to be decommissioned again due to its advanced age and extensive damage. However, when Kirk discovered that Spock's soul, or Katra, had been passed on to Dr. McCoy, he and his crew stole the Enterprise to return to the Genesis planet where they had left Spock's body. There, it was attacked by a Klingon bird of prey and had to be scuttled to keep the Klingons from capturing it. This was not the end of the Enterprise lineage, though. In 2286, after the fugitive Enterprise crew saved the Earth from a whale probe by time-traveling to recover some extinct whales to speak to it, they were surprised with the command of a new Enterprise, the NCC 1701A. This new Constitution II class heavy cruiser was essentially identical to the previous Refit Enterprise. While undergoing repairs following its shakedown cruise, the Enterprise A was sent to resolve a hostage crisis on Nimbus 3. There it was hijacked by Spock's rogue brother Sybok, who took it to the center of the galaxy in search of the mythical Shaka-Ree before Kirk regained control of it.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
Bring the ship closer.
I said, what does God need with a starship?
Jim, what are you doing? I'm asking a question.
In the early 2290s, it was outfitted with equipment for studying gaseous planetary anomalies, but in 2293 it was scheduled to be decommissioned once more and its command crew retired. It was assigned to one final mission as an escort for Klingon Chancellor Gorkon during the formation of the Khitomer Accords. This mission went awry when Gorkon was assassinated and the crew was plunged into the middle of an interstellar conspiracy, which resulted in a battle with the Klingon General Chang, who wished to prevent peace between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. The Enterprise was able to circumvent his Bird of Prey's cloaking device using their gaseous anomaly sensors, and with the aid of the USS Excelsior, captained by the Enterprise's former pilot Sulu, destroyed the enemy ship. Unfortunately, this display of valor was not enough to prevent the Enterprise's decommissioning, and it was ordered to return to Earth space dock after the Khitomer Conference. After being retired, the Enterprise's battle damage was repaired, and it was placed in the Fleet Museum at Athen Prime. And that is about everything there is to know about the Enterprise Refit and Enterprise A. Please let me know what you think of this ship and this video in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss the next installment, where we travel to the Lost Era and look at 2 iterations of the Enterprise we've only seen on screen once each. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. RFC, out.